All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Danielle Bass. I'm the Community Relations Manager here for Better Business Bureau of Eastern New England. And today we have a presentation with Robin Putnam of the Office of Consumer Affairs on identity theft. And we're so happy to have her here today and appreciate her making the time during this National Consumer Protection Week. So Robin, I will open the floor to you and let you get started.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle. It's a pleasure to be here. Danielle and I have been collaborating for the last couple of years on presentations, and it's always kind of fun to do something a little different, a 30-minute lunch break. I love that. So I work for the Office of Consumer Affairs, and I give a lot of presentations on fraud. Unfortunately, fraud and identity theft is an incredible problem. Our fraudsters don't really care how old you are, how much money you make, where you're from. If you've got, a social security number and a pulse, they're going to try to go after you. And it is what it is. I start with these programs really talking about your phones, your cell phones, because that's how most of these people get to us. We carry mini computers all day long, every day. It's really important to know that you're not being targeted. It's just these people are churning out phone numbers, their computer systems, and they're going to see if they can get you today, maybe tomorrow. If you don't recognize a phone number that pops up on your screen, it's really important to not pick it up, ever. If you don't know that number, it doesn't look familiar, because every time you pick it up, the fraudster now knows that it's a working phone number, and you answer the phone. So they're going to keep calling you constantly. Today they might be trying to sell you a medical device. The next day it's going to be something else. The next day they're going to keep doing it. And that's how they make money, is once they know it's a working number, they sell your phone number to other fraudsters. And then those people will start calling you as well. So, I know it's very frustrating, and people tend to like to answer the phone, but don't answer the phone. The other thing about phones, which I find kind of interesting, is there are at least, I think last count, 9 or 10 apps that anybody can download and put on their own phone. So, and what these apps do is it allows the caller to scramble their own phone number, so that when they call you, they might have it programmed to say the local library, or your local hospital, or the police department, or the IRS. They do that because they know you're more apt to pick up the phone if it says your local library, or something that in your, wherever you live. So it's just really important to be very wary of your phones. If you decide to pick up the phone because, hey, it says the library, you're like, all right, maybe I should pick it up. Never give out any personal information over the phone to anybody unless you have called them first. Because as I mentioned, you really can't verify, is it really the library they're calling? Is it really your doctor's office, your credit card company? You can't verify that 100%. So you should never give out any kind of personal information over the phone unless you've actually called them. Now, if you do get a phone call and you let it go to voicemail, and it might sound convincing, this is your bank, this is your credit card company, this is your local hospital, whatever they're asking you to do, they use social engineering, which is really frustrating. Social engineering is when they give you lots of little pieces of information about who you are as a person, and then they use it against you. And they find all of these pieces of information a lot of times through data breaches. So if a big entity gets hacked, like a hospital, all of that personal information ends up on the dark web, and the fraudsters get all those little pieces of information, and then they might go and use an ancestral website. Those are not, terrible websites, but you have to realize that there's lots of information on those websites. So what they will do is, and this is actually happening, there have been a lot of hospitals and medical centers that have been hit with ransomware attacks. And what these fraudsters do will simply say, my name is Sarah. I'm calling from Dr. So-and-so's office. I'm the new receptionist, and I'm just updating his new computer system. Could you just verify a few pieces of information for me? So it's not really, doesn't sound scary, but you might be like, oh, okay, great. did you last see this doctor on this date for this ailment, and you are now taking this kind of medication? And your next appointment with the next doctor is in 3 weeks, and you're due to have an MRI in Quincy, Massachusetts, on March 3rd. So they're giving you all the information, and it sounds right because you did see the doctor, and you are going to have an MRI in a few days or weeks. So they do that to make you feel comfortable. But then they will say, wonderful, thank you so much for verifying all of this information. Could you verify your credit card information so that we can make sure it's correct on our website? Could you verify your social security number to make sure we have it correct? Could you verify your Medicare number? You feel comfortable because they've already given you the information. So, oh, why not? I guess I should give them my information. So if you pick up the phone and someone is asking you a lot of personal questions, I would simply hang up or say, if you don't want to be rude, I understand. Just say, look, I don't have time to talk. I'll call you back. And if they say they're calling from your doctor or any kind of financial institution, find the number you already have associated with that entity and call that number directly. That way, you are reaching out to your doctor's office. You're reaching out to Visa, MasterCard, Amex, whomever. And you can then say, look, I got this really strange call. They were asking for a lot of personal information. I didn't give any information out over the phone. Can you help me? That way, the entity can then say, no, that was not us. We don't make those calls. That wasn't us. Did you give any personal information out over the phone went to that person? It just will make your life a lot easier if you're a little bit more strict with your phones. Most phones at this point, I will say, they do have, spam control. And a lot of times, if you've ever picked up your phone, it might say potential spam or scam. Great. Let it go to voicemail. Because the thing is, the more times they call and you don't answer, after a while, they're not going to keep calling because they're not going to get anywhere, and it's a waste of their time. And these scammers are calling from all over the world, and they are using major computer systems, and they churn out phone numbers, and they're going to just keep calling and keep calling. So if you're a waste of time to them, they're not going to keep calling. Somebody else might in their absence. I will say that happens to me a lot, but it is what it is. But that's, the phones are really challenging for most people. I will say, regarding text messages, texting scams really imploded during the pandemic. I noticed my office got a lot of complaints about texting. And I thought, all right. But, if you think about it, a lot of those texting scams, they weren't really scary. They're not, we have your child, or, we arrested somebody, or it wasn't crazy. It was simply, this is Amazon. We have a package for you. Could you click the link to verify your address? And that was it. And they impersonated all these big businesses, because what was happening during the pandemic? Everybody was online shopping. No one went anywhere. So all of these scams just kept going and going and going. So you just have to be careful. If you get a text message that seems a little wacky, I know there's been a texting scam recently about the Massachusetts Fast Pass. I've gotten the text at least 4 times. My mom's gotten it. Everybody in my office has gotten it. Unfortunately, it was simple. Could you click the link? This is, Mass Fast or Easy Pass. Sorry. Could you click the link to verify your address or verify your credit card? And people click those links. And unfortunately, what happens is with those links they usually have malware in the link, and they're trying to infiltrate your phone. So if you get a odd text message and it's from a business that you usually do business with, let's just say it is Easy Pass, simply log into your account, whether it's Easy Pass, whether it's Walmart, Target, Amazon. Log into your account on your laptop or cell phone, whatever you choose, and you can look in your accounts. And if there are any issues, any problems, there will be a red flag. And I just think you have to be a little careful, a little cautious before you click a link and do anything like that. We get a lot of complaints about that, and it is challenging. It is a little frustrating I think, but these companies are getting impersonated, and these text messages or calls or emails, they're very innocuous. They're not coming after you, saying crazy things. So you just have to be very careful of that. And I usually talk a little bit about all your smart devices. Everybody has a smart device. And a lot of people say, oh, my mom's a senior. She doesn't have she doesn't have a cell phone. She doesn't do this. 98, I think at this point, 98% of all seniors have smart devices. They actually tend to have more technology than the rest of us, because they can. And I will say my mom has more technology than I do. She's got a laptop, she's got an iPad, she's got all of this stuff. And I had a laugh. I said, Mama, you like gaming? What do you need all this stuff for? And we had a good laugh. I said, look, I don't care that you have all this technology, but you need to make sure you understand how to use it and how to use it safely. So for example, your phone, are you doing all of your updates? So if you are doing your security updates on a regular basis, then you're going to be fine in case you might click a link and you didn't realize. But it is very important to make sure you are updating all of your smart devices so that if anything ever happens, you will be safe. So when you don't do those updates, what happens is it's like locking your front door, but leaving the back door completely wide open. And I will say, I am not a techie person. If something's going wrong with my phone, I will go to my carrier. I feel a little crazy, but I will just go with the carrier and say, look, it's running very slowly. I don't know. I think I might have done something. And then the expert will fix the problem. The same thing with my laptop. I can't tell you how many times something's a little wacky with my laptop. I will go to the Apple store. I don't care anymore. I don't care. There's no embarrassment. And it's usually like a 16-year-old kid who greets me and 3 clicks later has fixed the problem. I feel super foolish, but I know I've gone to the expert. They can fix the problem. So, we all have lots of devices. So it's really important to know how to do the updates. And if you have questions, go find an entity that will help. I mean, you can actually go right to the Better Business Bureau site and look for a business, and they'll tell you whatever business you're looking for. And I always suggest to people, go to the Better Business Bureau site. It's easy. They'll get you anything that you need, and they'll tell you the reviews, and it will make your life so much easier. I think another thing I think everybody should be aware of, and usually people don't like to talk about this, is changing and updating passwords. We tend to be very lazy. No one wants to change their password. They have like 4 passwords and they haven't changed them in 5 years, or the last time they changed it, they turned it around and added a 1, 2, 3. You have to, and you should be changing your passwords every 4 to 5 months, if not more, because, we are lazy. And when I was talking about data breaches, when a data breach occurs, most people think, oh, it's a credit card that's stolen, or maybe someone got your social security number, and that happens. But there are times when a data breach, the information that has been breached is only login credentials. That's all they got. So if you get a letter in the mail saying, this is such and such library and we had a data breach, but don't worry, they didn't get your credit card information. All they got was your login credentials. You should go right online and change all of your passwords, because what those fraudsters will do, they get that information and they will use that login credential, whether or not it's a simple library. I'm not knocking any libraries, but they will use that login credential on every business to see if they can get into a bank account, a credit card account, Amazon, Walmart, Target, because a lot of people, unfortunately, only have 1 or 2 strong passwords. So if you get that letter, change your passwords immediately. I always say have four good, solid passwords, really solid passwords. They really shouldn't be anything to do with who you are as a person. It can't be your last name, the street you grew up on, your favorite color, a grandchild. It has to be something completely arbitrary. I tend to use clothing. I might use black and white sweater, 1, 2, 3, 4, exclamation. I have had people say that they will use a lyric to their favorite poem or their favorite song. One of my good friends speaks fluent Russian, and a lot of her passwords are weird Russian rhymes, and then she adds some other things and puts it in. So I think, my gosh, unless it's a Russian hacker, they probably wouldn't get that. But it is kind of funny. Whatever you choose to do, make sure your passwords are very strong. And, having a password keeper is so helpful. You don't have to necessarily have a digital password keeper, though I know the newer smartphones all have password keepers built into the software. Use those, utilize them, because who's good at remembering passwords? I'm not. I don't know anybody who's good at remembering a password. Danielle's going, yeah, no, me neither. It is what it is. That's why we have those password keepers. Keep the passwords in there, keep them up to date. And if you need to redo them or, create a new one, you log in, get into your phone, and then whoop, there you go. Go through your password keeper. If you don't want to do that and be very technical, have it written down somewhere in your home. My mom has a little simple notebook that she uses, and she hides it away and keeps it, hidden away. So when she needs to change her passwords, she goes and does that. I just think whatever your comfort level is, you should be doing that. Danielle, have any questions come in so far?
We've not gotten questions in,
Great.
but I've had a few, and
Sure.
I would love if you could just talk a little bit about where to find out if you have been a part of a data breach. I know people get confused on I heard about this one, but I'm not sure if I was a part of it. Can you chat a little bit further about that?
Absolutely. So by law in Massachusetts, if your information has been breached through a data breach, that entity has to notify you, whether it's via email, a phone call, or a physical letter. If you have been involved and you get that letter and you're not 100% sure if it's legit or not, you can actually, you can either go to our website, mass.gov/consumer. You scroll down, we do have a page that lists all of the breaches that have been reported. So they have to report the breach to my office as well as the Attorney General's office. And then you can, if you can't find it or you have a problem, you can call our office. I'll put our consumer hotline in, and we can look up, oh, okay, yes, such and such entity did have a breach, and we were notified, whether it was last week, a week before, what have you. On that information, the letter that you received, if you verified, yes, it is an actual data breach, there has to be a contact information right there, whether it's an attorney handling the breach for the entity, or it might be in legal counsel within the business. If you're not sure, you can actually just call our office. We'll do a little digging for you. It's pretty easy. I'm going to put our consumer hotline in the chat, as well as our consumer email box. What other questions did you have, Danielle?
I had a popular one that I've heard out in the community recently, and I know you can touch on this, but can you talk about the 3 different credit bureaus people should be utilizing to freeze their accounts if they want to do that?
Yes. Equifax, TransUnion, and what's the third? I have to think about that. I can't think of it in a minute. I'll think of it in a second. What I usually tell people to do is actually just go to annualcreditreport.com. That's the easiest, and annualcreditreport.com. That website pops up all 3 of the credit bureaus, and it is super easy to do a credit check. You will create an account, you'll create a password, then you can run your credit on all 3 of the credit bureaus. It's a very boring read, I will tell you, but you want to do that at least. Experian. What you should do is everybody should run a credit report at least once a year. It's very boring, but you want to make sure whatever is listed on your credit report makes sense and is yours and is correct. Your name, your address, your date of birth, are you alive? Anything that's listed there, if something is not correct, you can dispute it, and you should dispute it. And then, Danielle did mention doing a credit freeze. That is really important. Everybody, I don't care how old you are, should have their credit frozen, because there have been so many data breaches and so much fraud. Freezing your credit is one thing that will really keep you a lot safer. And what that means is basically, if a hacker gets a hold of your social security number and they try to open up a new line of credit in your name, they won't be able to do that. So, if you have children, if you have kids who are 18 and younger, are about 52 times more likely to have their information stolen. There have been high schools and colleges and daycare centers that have had major breaches. So you want to just make sure that go online, create an account with all three of the bureaus, and then freeze your credit. And do that for your child as well. It's just going to keep them so much safer until they're adults and they can decide what they would like to do, whether keep it frozen or not. And I tested the system. I had to laugh at myself. I recently purchased a car and needed financing. Totally forgot that my credit was frozen. And they said, well, we really can't give you a loan. And I said, what are you talking about? I have excellent credit. Oh, it's frozen. Wow, that does work. So, I literally logged back into my account, unfroze it, and then 35 minutes later, the lender got me a car loan. So doing a credit freeze is really, really good to do.
And did we have any questions from anyone that wants to unmute and ask them?
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to do so now. Well, if people are thinking, I would definitely ask you, Robin, to talk a little bit about the credit card skimming, because I know that's something that people have talked about, but aren't super familiar with what that looks like.
So credit card skimming, basically, when you are using your credit card, no matter where you're using your credit card, there is the opportunity that there could be a skimming device. You tend to find skimming devices at older gas stations. They have been found really anywhere. So my biggest thing to tell people is, you may never see a skimming device. I've never physically seen one. I know that they're there. I never shove or swipe my card. I always tap my card because when you tap your card, it's basically what that is. It's RFID. It's basically a little teeny antenna on your credit card. And when you go to the gas station, the back gas pump, I think I have something here. When you go to the gas pump, you tap your credit card and you can pay for your gas. Now, I will say, if you have this symbol on your credit card or debit card, that means that this credit card has that technology built into it. So you would simply tap the card and away you go. That's going to be your biggest safety net to deal with credit card skimming devices. I try to not ever give my card physically to people when I go to the restaurants, because you never know if that server has had a terrible day and maybe they're just going to try to get your credit card information. And we all have cell phones, and all of our cell phones have cameras. And what has happened is you give your card away to somebody. You don't know this is happening, but they open up their camera and take 2 pictures, front and back of your card. You don't know what's happened. And all of a sudden you look at your statement at the end of the month and you go, whoa, what are all those charges? So I do suggest people if you don't like online banking, I totally get it. Some people do, some people don't, but you should be looking at your statement at the end of the month and going through all of your charges to make sure that they really are yours. So that if you notice, what is that $2 charge from? I don't even know what that entity is. Call your bank, your credit card company, and say, that's not me. That's not my charge. I want that disputed. And it's pretty easy to do that. That's one thing that you can do for credit card skimming devices, really.
Absolutely. So the best thing to do is take an exciting read through your credit card statement, which I know isn't the most exciting or riveting thing to do, but it's very much worth it. And like Robin said, if you're not comfortable with online banking, you don't want to use your banking app or things like that, you can still get your paper copy and just go through it, because it's all too common that the scams are now lower amounts. Rather than scamming one person out of $1,000, they're scamming 1,000 people out of $1. So 100%. Taking a look at even those smaller amounts is important. And watching out for scams isn't fun. I don't think anyone enjoys taking the extra time to do it, but the best way to avoid scams, in my experience, is to educate yourself on them, like you're doing now with this program, and to talk about them. It's not like a a fun, sexy topic, but it is really important that at lunch, at holidays and things like that, you discuss it with loved ones. Catherine, do you have a question?
I do. Excuse me. Thank you for taking my question. My question is basically this: if there's, so I've been, as probably most of us have been, I've received information about data breaches and signed up for the 2 years of credit card monitoring or whatever. I'm at this point, I have so many of those I can't keep track of them, and so I consequently will get alerts. You've had this data alert, and I don't know what account to check to look into it, and I don't want to click on the email saying you have an alert, because that's one of those phishing scams, if you ask me. So I'm wondering if you have any suggestions about how to manage that process.
Sure. There are entities out there that can manage all of your information so that you don't have to keep using the different entities that you're using and put it all into one. I would just make sure that, like a LifeLock or ID Shield, things like that, whatever entity you're thinking about using, I would just make sure you do your due diligence, make sure that the business has never had a data breach, make sure it's easy and user friendly. I think, you can go online and to all three of the credit bureaus and see if there's anything that has happened. Instead, if you don't want to click on a link from an email that you're not 100% sure of, I actually just went into Equifax. I got a notification because I do use a company, and I got a notification regarding Equifax. So I did log into my Equifax account, and sure enough, it was actually my lender for my new car loan that had done a check on myself just to make sure I could get my loan. So, they do send you those things. I just think whatever business you're thinking about using, to make sure that you've done your due diligence. And that's really for any business that you're going to do work with. Do your due diligence, make sure it's a reputable company. You can go to the Better Business Bureau site and say, all right, company ABC, what does it look like? What are the reviews? How do they handle complaints? It's a tool that can be very helpful.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? I know we just hit 12:30, so again, to be conscious of people's time, we'll start to wrap up, but I know Robin put their information in the chat for anybody that would like to connect or ask any questions. I put the Better Business Bureau's information as well. We both have wonderful hotlines that you can call with any questions and reach out. You can also email us if you're not sure where to turn to. We'll send you either way, depending on which one you need, us or them. But we are always here to offer these kind of educational resources and be that world of protection for you and education for scams and fraud. So thank you for joining today. And thank you so much, Robin, for presenting at our little Lunch and Learn. And I hope you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful National Consumer Protection Week. So share this with someone as your good deed for the week.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for everybody for attending. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have an excellent evening.